次はですね、アフリカからの参加になります、オーギュスタン・バサボセさんになりますが、今からその Zoom でお話しいただくので、ちょっとこれまでとは様子が違うかもしれません。バサボセさんはコンゴ民主共和国の自然科学研究センターのエグゼクティブディレクターをされています。山際さんとはですね、カフジビエ学術公園で1980年代からゴリラとチンパンジーの共存域での研究をされています。日本にも山際さんの下で学位を取得するために何度も来日されて、2005年の3月にチンパンジーの生態学的研究で理学博士を取られました。また、カフジで類人猿の調査をするだけではなくて、山際さんと NGO 活動などでも共同作業をされてきています。コンゴでのそのゴリラの保護活動の、ゴリラ、チンパンジーの保護活動のキーパーソンでもあります。今、そのコンゴ民主共和国、どこにおられるのかもちょっとわからないんですけれど、それで英語でお話しいただくことになりますが、通訳はついておりませんが、ご了承ください。それではですね、バサボセさん、おぎゅう、オンコマンス。
Okay, merci. Est-ce que vous pouvez m'entendre? Vous pouvez me voir? Allô? C'est possible, vous pouvez me voir, Suzuki-san? Vous pouvez m'entendre? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so should I share my slides? I don't know if it works like this one. Can you see my slide?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, thank you very much. So I have been asked to talk about the current situation of research and the conservation of great apes at Kahuzi-Biega National Park. It's a great pleasure for me really to take this opportunity and to share a few words with you on this special day of the symposium to celebrate the retirement of the President Yamagiwa. So as you know, I have a long story with Professor Yamagiwa. So it won't be easy for me to summarize probably in a few minutes. But my slide will be basically on the situation we are having in Kahuzi-Biega. And I will touch a little bit our relationship, and I believe the future is still ahead. So, as you know, Kahuzi-Biega is a park in Eastern DRC. It was founded in 1970, and with I don't know how I can show, so I can have a read of my slides. So, sorry. Okay, then, oh no, can't see it. Okay, so it was founded in 1970. And with an area of 600 square kilometers of mountain forest. Then it was extended later in 1975, including the lowland land, and have a big part of the lowland forest. But the event there, it's excluded indigenous dwelling people, including the pygmy. And later on, we have some problem because of this exclusion. So the park is named after two dormant volcanoes, which are Kahuzi Biega, and this is the highest mountain in the region with 3,308 meters above the sea level. Then another Biega is the second dormant volcano, which is at a height of the 2,790 meters. I don't know. Okay, maybe I can do this. Okay, then okay, probably. Okay, Kahuzi Biega National Park is the second most important site in the region for both endemic species and in terms of specific diversity. The park protects 136 species of mammals, among which the charismatic eastern lowland gorillas and almost 13 other primates. We have within the park 349 species of birds, including 42 endemic species of birds. We also have 69 species of reptiles, 44 amphibians, and around 1,200 species of plants. But the inventory is still incomplete, and we believe we may have more. Those are the different primate species which are found in Kahuzi Biega, including two nocturnal primates. Among the diurnal primates, we have the famous gorilla Beringai growlery and of the Pantoglodates 140. I have highlighted those two because most of our research was focused on those two species. And as you can see, there is no other studies done. So it's still a place for primatology studies. Kahuzi Biega National Park is exceptional habitat for the rainforests and a very, very rich biodiversity, including the great apes. Those are gorilla Beringai growlery, which inhabits sympathetically in this park with the common chimpanzee Pantoglodates 140. As you know, primatology is very important in DRC. We are listed as the first country on African having the more number of species, primate species, around 67 taxa. And it's also the fourth of worldwide after Brazil, Indonesia, and Madagascar. But there is very, very few primatologists, and Kahuzi Biega is not an exception. That's why you saw very, very few studies have been done on primates, only focused on the great apes. And Kahuzi Biega is the home of the largest population of gorillas, with about 90% of these high threatened species. The other 10% are in very fragmented forests around Kahuzi Biega National Park. When we talk about the gorillas, you know, there are some pioneers which we can't eat, like George Schaller, We did some study on mountain gorillas. We also have Dan Fossey, and of course, Professor Yamagiwa, who has established a long-term studies on both Eastern and Western lowland gorillas. Takenoshita-san was talking about Mukaraba, where Professor Yamagiwa is leading this project on a Gentil group. And I had a chance myself to visit many times Mukaraba. It's fantastic when we compare with what we have been doing in Kahuzi Biega, of course. So those three are, of course, the pioneer, and Professor Yamagiwa is still active and working on this. So we can't ignore that. So challenges, we have got many challenges in Kahuzi Biega National Park, as you probably saw on the media. We had two wars. The first war was between November 1996 and May 1997. And the second war started in August 1998 until July 2003. And those wars, as you can imagine, disturbed our work in Kahuzi Biega. And because of that, the park has been put on the list of World Heritage Sites in danger since 1997. We are working hard with the park authorities how we can put again Kahuzi Biega on the list of World Heritage only, not in danger as it is for now. And you probably know and saw this on the media again, the mass killing of elephants and gorillas in Kahuzi Biega. And the Professor Yamagiwa wrote a paper in 2003 to alert the world what is being done in Kahuzi Biega. So between 1994 and 2014, an overall decline in grouse gorilla population was estimated at 76%. I want to make sure if you are still following me, because the connection sometimes is bad. Could you please let me know if it's okay? I hope it's okay, so I keep continuing. So the situation has a little bit improved. And the park authorities is operating vigorously to monitor the gorillas and protect the park. As you can see, as I was saying, the war between 1996 and 2003 have a very big impact, negative impact of the number of gorillas, you can see here. So I was myself involved, and Professor Yamagiwa, on the census of 1996. But when few years later we went again, we found half of the population were killed, and most of them were habituated gorillas. But you can see how it starts picking up again, and for now, we may cross again the same number we had in 1996. So the population is growing. And as also a proof, you can see the park begins again to attract more tourists despite the difficulties they are undergoing. But you can see from 2007, just after the war, how progress they have been doing in terms of visiting tourists, welcoming tourists, and with a 68.9%, which is quite good. So I want to share with you a little bit my story, how I became a primatologist. Of course, it's a long story, but I'll take it shortened. So first of all, I was a medical entomologist working on mosquitoes and and malaria, of course, in the region. And I did this work for almost 5 years. But later on, as you know, Professor Yamagiwa conducted a very important population census of gorilla in 1990, when, I mean, few months before I joined the research center where Professor Yamagiwa was establishing a memorandum of understanding with the research center, So, but I knew that something was being done on gorillas and the other primates. But unfortunately, a few months later, there was riots occurred in major cities of Zaire. It was still Zaire in that days, including our capital city, Kinshasa, and the Japanese team who was working on primates, but the others on fish, they flee the country at that moment. And the research, as a result, goes down. So I was lucky because meanwhile, while the Japanese team was not permanent at the research center where I'm working, Professor Yamagiwa kept coming for a few days. And I remember in August 1994, when he was coming from the 15th IPS Congress in Bali, Indonesia, I got a chance to be introduced to him. And he welcomed me in his team. And I can't forget the first contact I got with the real forest, because I was doing in the swamp, in the rivers, but now I changed my research topic to the to the great apes under the supervision of Professor Yamagiwa. I was really very, very happy and proud of being a researcher in mammals, but specifically on primates and great apes. Yeah, this is a very good photo. They took me when I first visited Japan in 1996 on my way to IPS in US on the invitation of Professor Yamagiwa. And as a few months I was in contact with gorilla in the bush, but now I could touch the gorillas. These gorillas. It was really impressive. And this is a photo taken in Inuyama. I got a chance to have a degree under the supervision of Professor Yamagiwa, and I'm very, very proud of it because in then my life changed, of course, in research, and I was really happy, and I kept continuing my research. Not only that, I remember the 50th anniversary. I was welcomed to the house of Professor Yamagiwa. Those are very few photos. If I started showing photos, maybe I don't have enough time, because he brought me in the world, I can say, in the US, in Australia, in Madagascar. So I have really a big story, a long story with Professor Yamagiwa. So, but to cut it short, those are some events which I can't forget, of course, having the degree under his supervision and being welcome on my 50th anniversary. This is very significant, as you can see, and can also agree with me. And later on, after my degree, he came again in Kahuzi-Biega to show me that this is not the end, we should continue the work, and we kept continuing the work, and I promised I will never give up. And this photo we took in Kahuzi-Biega National Park when he came to visit us, and we are with our trackers and the guide rangers. This is how we live in the forests when we are tracking gorillas and chimpanzees, of course. And the methodology set by Professor Yamagiwa on his long-term study established at Kahuzi-Biega in Chibati was to habituate and monitor gorillas. But habituation became a little bit difficult because of the war, the situation, and we lose half of the population of gorilla because most of the individual kids were habituated ones. So we kept recording demography, the meteorological, habituation and monitoring of gorilla and chimpanzee group for research. Even that we stopped to habituate them because of the same issue. And we now basically rely on indirect sign to study them, and especially feces. Of course, the phenology is important to know how foods, mainly fruits, are also available and how the great apes are responding to the availability or scarcity of different fruit species. And again, with his help, when he was now president, we couldn't come to our study site for many reasons, but he helped us with a few camera traps, and we started a long-term biodiversity monitoring program using camera trap, which is a very important activity because the park is valuing it because they didn't know what kind of species they do have in the park they are protecting. But with the camera trap, we are now monitoring on a daily basis and showing them different species they have, as you can see on the screen. We have the baboons, we have the off-face monkey, we have the lowest monkey, we have the blue monkey, different type of antelopes, and small carnivora. So we have a lot of biodiversity. We are now myself discovering, because I used to work in this park, but I have never met some of these species. But with the camera trap, it's no longer a secret. We can now see them. Those are other photos, and we are doing it systematically. Our goal is to set a kind of map showing where we can have more primates and with different species on the map, so it can help the park for the management and the tourism, of course. Up to now, we have reached more than 40 species, different species, but we still continue working. So talking about the problems, snaring is one of the key threats to Kahuzi-Biega National Park. And we set up with the park a snare removing program, which is also very helpful for the biodiversity, because we remove all the snares within the park. And as you know, the snare is very dangerous because they can catch a gorilla hand, and even if the gorilla are not the target, but they sometimes fall in the snares and they lose their hand. As you can see, this gorilla here is a young boy, gorilla Meteor, missing his left hand because of it was taken in the snare. It's from Chimanuka family. The other thing is the habitat loss converted in agricultural activities. And people do enter in the forest, cut down trees, making charcoal. And charcoal is a very lucrative business in the region. So it's really very disturbing. And we try to think how we can help from the result of the research, how we can help to restore the degraded forests. And you can see following the gorilla, they leave behind their dung, and we collect the seed for our study, feeding behavior of gorilla and chimpanzee. But we found that those that could be used in nursery, then go and we can take them back in the forest just to restore the forest. And as you can see, we are installing the nursery, and we have a large-scale production of great ape seedlings, including 6 main species, and you can see among them Mirianthus, Bridelia, Maesa, and so on. So this is very, very helpful because from the results in the lab, we can make an impact. And this is I learned from Professor Yamagiwa because we do research, but also looking ahead and see how the research can help the communities around. And this is one example from the result to an impact. Transplanting forestry seedlings into Kahuzi-Biega, which were deforested by local people and helped really the park management. We have done now around 30 hectares, but we keep monitoring the other places when we can continue.
Basabose-san, 3 more minutes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. And again, we are distributing to the seedling, to the communities, because those plants are very important. They heal 63 different diseases, so it's very important. I have a short video of 2 minutes. I'll use my 3 minutes to show you this small video to show you that there is still hope in Kahuzi-Biega, despite all the problems we are having. This a small video, maybe can show you that we still have hope because despite the problem, gorilla and chimpanzee are still alive and continue to give babies. So we think that our lives is still continuing. So it's just a 2 minutes movie, short video.
Basabose-san, maybe the connection is slow so that we can see the video.
Oh, you can see the video. So I'll stop it, correct? Okay, I will stop it. I'll just stop it. So it was to show that we still have a hope because gorillas and chimpanzees are there. But there is another reason for hope because young researchers are now seeing the interest in primatology. As I told you, the primatology in the Congo is very key because of the number of species we have. And I'm very happy because young researchers are now interested. This is Mikhail Baraka, who is leading a Hamlini project. And the Hamlini project is important because sometimes people think we have an endemic species in Kahuzi-Biega. You can see those 3-4 photos of Hamlini, and they are different in, that some have no, the white on the nose, and some are just a point, and you can see, so Mikhail is working here on this one to clarify this taxonomy, and I believe ours is very dynamic and enthusiastic. We'll come up with a very good research to clarify the taxonomy of those species. This is another reason of hope, I was saying. So thank you very much for your attention for this my short talk to honor Professor Yamagiwa and what he did and he continued to do for us in Kahuzi-Biega. Thank you very much.